Sanibonani emakhaya, igama lami nginontokozo Gwalintombi yakamhlabi yalingana. The High Court rules in favor of a father who was fighting to get his names on a child birth certificate. This is an article found on IOL, documented by Zelda Venter on the 22nd August 2023. An Eastern Cape High Court judge ruled that both the child and the father have the right to have their identity reflected on their child's birth certificate, despite regulation section 12, subsection 2, clause C restriction. This clause is saying a father who is a foreigner may not be identified as a father of a child born outside of the bonds of marriage on the child's birth certificate unless that father is legally in South Africa. The application was initiated by unmarried South African parents and Bulgarian father who are currently living in South Africa due to expired visas. In terms of the Bulgarian law, the child is entitled to Bulgarian citizenship, but the Bulgarian embassy will not process the child's registration as a Bulgarian citizen without a full birth certificate reflecting his father's names on it. The parents tried to register the father as such with Home Affairs, but this was refused because he was no longer legally in the country due to visa difficulties and he was not a South African citizen. It is said that if a father wanted his name reflected on the birth certificate, he's got two options. First is to get a paternity test. Second is to get a court order that his detail be inserted in the child's birth certificate. The department nonetheless vigorously opposed this application, and to the surprise of the judge hearing the matter, only accepted to adding the father's detail while the parties square off in court. When the courts become aware of the possibly unconstitutional conduct that undermines constitutional rights, they are required to act and deal with an unconstitutionality decisively. This is what the judge said. Courts are the ultimate arbiter on constitutional rights and the last defender of protection for ordinary people when their rights are being rendered unimportant, even if this act is committed by a government official. I totally agree with what the judge is saying because this calls for a legislation review because it is one clause that removes the rights of a child to have both parents' detail inserted in the birth certificate. It has nothing to do with the father, it has nothing to do with the mother, but it is a right of a child. The judge said none of the father's visa difficulties had anything to do with the child's birth to have the identity of the father officially recognized. I totally agree. Home Affairs submission that the expiry of a visa must determine if the child should be allowed to have a birth certificate with full details on his or her father defies all sense of logic. That's what the judge said. And there was an article that was published by IOL as well and written by Nicola Daniel where they were actually quoting the statistics that was released by Stats SA that 62% of the South African births in 2017 had no info on fathers. Based on the article that we have read, it shows that there are fathers that are willing, but they are prohibited by legislation, and there are those that are not willing, and unfortunately that is the pandemic that the country is faced with. But I think we must expand this questionnaire to look at the possibility of getting information from fathers who are willing to be part of this process of documenting their birth certificate with Home Affairs. Before you step down from this video, kindly subscribe to my channel, like, comment down below, and yeah, man, thank you very much.